Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're at out here on this fine Friday. Finally made it to the weekend here, 10:58 a.m. That's California time. February 7th, 2025 is the date. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D Globe, a 1.0 across California. Seeing a little bit of larger movement here overnight, including a 6-pointer down across the Tonga Trench. Fairly decent size earthquake. Also some movement here across the Java Trench last night, just off the Java Trench, a 5.8 coming in to this area. Originally a 6-pointer. Let's talk about the Greece area. Looks like Italy's starting to swarm out here as well. Interesting, a little bit of movement going on. But let's check out Greece here. This is the last 24 hours of earthquake activity. Of course, if we were to include the all magnitudes, it's a massive amount in the thousands range. But 200, looks like about 229 earthquakes here in the last 24 hours of some decent magnitudes. Let's see what we got for the largest. Looks to be a 5.1 earthquake here in the mix of earthquake activity. Notice a little bit of migration down here towards the Santorini area in between these two regions, showing some elevated movement. Still, quite a few fours out there. And again, that 5-pointer stirring up the all magnitudes map, of course, brings in, these guys are only showing 1,541, but I guarantee you it's a lot more than that. This is just one page of many that shows some of the seismic activity out here happening around the Santorini and the Colombo volcano region. As of right now, there's been no major change. Looking at the seismograph station here, this is the last 24 hours around the Santorini, Greece area. It's a BHC station. Still showing quite a bit of earthquake activity out there. The 5-pointer is mixed in there in a large, I believe it's that large red signature out there. And of course, if you look in between, there's a lot of these other little quakes in between those large seismic events. Look at the live seismograph station there. Looks pretty quiet in terms of anything coming in right now, but again, this has been quite escalated here and is continuing to do so. We're not seeing any signs of letting down or letting off in terms of the seismic uptick. If anything, it looks like there's a little bit of more of a migrational pattern here across the region to the south, closer to the Santorini volcano. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it. Again, that 5.1, the largest earthquake in the last 24 hours out there in the GNC area. Also, Italy area seeing some movement as well. Let's see, let's pull up the USGS map, see if they've involved it. Yes, they have. 5.1, 7 o'clock this morning, just off the coast there of Italy. North of Malta, that is a decent earthquake. If I remember, though, I think these guys have seen a little bit of swarming out there recently. That 5-pointer striking a little bit further up north here. There's a little separate swarm just along the plate boundary with a couple other different quakes. Nothing big, but there is some movement stirring up out there. And it seems as though, whatever was going on underneath this area of the Ethiopia rift boundary stirred up something underneath here. So obviously there's convection going on underneath the area below, underneath the plates, that creates the tension and the strain and the pulling apart of the plate systems out here. And it seems like it's definitely amplified conditions regionally. And just kind of keeping an eye on it. Let me go check out the Volcano Discovery site here real quick, see what we have as far as any information on the volcano activity. This was put out today, it looks like, by the Volcano Discovery website. They got a lot of interesting information here. Here's the map showing some of the magnitude count out here. Look at that. 7,700 earthquakes registered in about 9 days at the Santorini area. That's a lot of, holy smokes, that's a lot of movement, right? But this goes back, it looks like, from June 2024 till today's date. That's 9,411 events in total. But most of these events here have happened within the last couple weeks, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. A lot of movement going on. Nothing volcanic yet, but I still am leaning towards this being a volcanic, some type of volcanic, leading to a volcanic eruption here eventually. I don't know exactly when. The magnitudes have been increasing, and they're staying pretty consistent actually in terms of the that magnitude level. Lots of 4s, occasional 5s. Definitely got to watch that. That's 7,700 earthquakes in the last 9 days. Goodness. All right, there's the 4-pointers out there. I got to see if I can pull up this map. I don't have a link to this, but let's see if I can pull this up here. It'd be interesting to look at some of the filters. Let's see what else we got. Mount Spur, that's over in the Alaska area, getting a little bit of seismic elevated activity last year and in the last couple days as well. Let's see what we have. Media speculate about potential volcanic eruption. You know, if that happened, it'd be a big one. More and more news articles published in Greek media seem to suggest that the seismic crisis is more likely than not to lead towards a new volcanic eruption at Santorini, or more likely, probably at the submarine Colombo volcano. Fracture zones kind of shows the area of different fractures out there in the faults. The majority of the earthquake activity is occurring just northeast of here. That would actually put it in between a number of those fault systems. But the way we've been viewing the depth of the earthquakes here recently, along with, now this is interesting right here. This is a vertical uplift map here. I wish there was a little bit more detailed, but this is the Santorini Volcano area. Notice across the northern end here, getting some yellow and some reds there. That is actually droppage, it looks like, on that side. The green and the blue would be uplift, vertical displacement. I don't know if we got a little bit of blue out there, which would be 60 plus mm per year. It looks like around this area of the caldera of Santorini. You guys see that? So that's rather interesting there. There is some type of ground deformation going on there. I need to get a little bit better information here, a little bit better map in order to study this a little bit more. But there is what looks like inflation going on, ground changes. So that's, obviously a sign of something coming up from below. The latest satellite-based radar measurements here of the surface of the island group seems to show that some inflation has affected the volcano complex since the start of the seismic crisis, or the seismic swarm, about 10 days ago. He reported in the paper, for some time now, we have detected some signs of change in the volcano compared to its previous state of calm. But, of course, nothing's conclusive yet, and got to watch for more information. But either way, it's evolving, right? It's a process here, and so far things have not let up. Again, if you look at the earthquake map here, it's quite a bit of earthquake activity. Still a couple hundred there in the last 24 hours. The seismograph stations out there all still showing quite a bit of earthquake activity. Maybe not quite as much as what we had seen here, probably about 4 days ago when this thing, you can even see these seismograph lines here, the small, the normal lines when they're not having earthquakes here, the red and the blue seismic lines. But there's still a lot of earthquake activity happening there, folks. So we'll continue to watch it, monitor it. Nothing big happening now. A little bit of adjustment west of this area. That could have something to do with the overall convection that's going on underneath this area, affecting not only magma areas an influx and flow of magma from below to certain volcanoes, but also it looks like it's affecting some plates out here. So overall, a lot of activity, even some further movement down in the Ethiopia rift boundary again, 4.6 and a 4.8. So whatever's going on underneath this area is affecting the region as a whole. And we just got to watch, wait, and see what happens with this event. 5.0, Indonesia Islands area. Let's see, I believe that, this 6.0 right here in the Fiji area this morning, it's going to be the largest earthquake so far today. Let me double check that. Previous to that, a 5.8 off the Java Trench here, just prior to the Java Trench. So a little bit of uptick here in earthquake activity in terms of magnitude level. For the West Coast, California area, Northern California, a handful of smaller quakes out here across the southern end of the Cascadia megathrust area. Nothing going on there for now. 3.4, the largest earthquake in that little sequence of events today. Nothing major going on across the Pacific Northwest. San Francisco, pretty quiet. The Southern California region, not a whole lot happening there right now. Generally small microquake activity. That's one thing I've noticed here is a decline in earthquake activity out here since everything's happening out in the Mediterranean region. And that may just be a coincidence here. But generally, earthquake activity here in the West Coast has been somewhat quiet here for now in terms of any major swarming or anything above, the 2.5 level. There's a handful of earthquakes across Los Angeles, but generally small earthquakes and below the 2.5 threshold. So we'll just watch, wait, and see. Nothing major going on there across Yellowstone super volcano. Let's go check out the super volcano up in Wyoming. See if there's any earthquake activity happening up there. There's some wind events stirring up here in the last few hours. That's the blue lines. But there is a couple earthquakes there. Very small events. And I believe they showed a number of them. Looks to be a couple small ones and even a couple earthquakes below that level, which I'm surprised they're showing, but they are showing it there on the map. Texas oil fields still getting hit. Nothing new out there. New Madrid seismic zone, a little 1.8 from yesterday. Let's take a look here at the earthquake 3D globe, see what we have going on. Aside from the obvious movement out here, Atlantic Ocean pretty quiet. South America area, just typical movement. Can see that on any given day. There's really not anything changing out there. Middle America Trench, roughly about the same. Couple smaller earthquakes down there. Alaska, nothing major happening. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, some fours from yesterday. A little bit of stirring up going on here, as noted across the Indonesia Islands area northward. Taiwan seeing a 4.8. Still watching this area right here, the Nankai Trough. That's a major subduction zone there in the Japan region. That's got a mega quake warning put on it here by the Japanese government last year sometime. I think it was August when they were watching a big seismic swarm south here that obviously can strain this area. And it's coming up on a time frame here where we could see a mega quake happen. So just watching it. Nothing happening on it for now. New Zealand, nothing major. 3.9 South Island area. We'll continue to watch things, see how they progress today. Look at space weather activity. Number of M flares overnight from the very active region there on the northwestern quadrant of the sun. Almost a X flare, it looks like. A couple decent M flares. Let's go ahead and check out the sun, see what we have. 3981, I'm sure, is the culprit of some of this M flare activity. But it's still got a few different individual cores out here. Really not seeing anything major out here, but it's still got potential for some M flare activity as we've seen overnight. We'll continue to watch that region. It is still somewhat in an Earth-directed view, but it's getting off there on the western limb here where if things do blast off in terms of a CME, it may not be Earth-directed, or it may not be geo-effective here in terms of any aurora activity. Pretty quiet across the rest of the sun for now. Overall flare threat, let's go ahead and check this out. X flare still elevated at 25% chance. M flare at 80. C flare at 99% chance there, obviously. And if we look at the Storm Prediction Center, not a whole lot of severe weather happening out there for now across the country. California drying out a little bit. That's good because we picked up another 1.5 inches here yesterday on top of our 4 inches of rain that we had the day before. So a little break in the storms across California until middle to the end of next week. Then the storm track wants to slam into California again, and that is fine by me. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Got a pretty busy day. Seismograph stations right now look pretty quiet. We'll continue to watch them. The Greece station out there near the Santorini Volcano, a little spike of an earthquake, really nothing big showing up on it now. Still keeping an eye on it. Obviously, this is a evolving process here. It's got migration towards the Santorini area. We have to watch that closely. If we see an escalation of events underneath this area, then we could be talking about an eruption here near term. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. Please stay safe.